She said, "My boss invited me out tonight." And she didn't say it like a person asking. She said it like a person announcing weather. Then she locked eyes with me, right over the sink, and smiled that small, practiced smile she used in meetings when she was about to win. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced down, thumb hovering, and said yes. I rinsed my coffee mug slow, the way you do when your hands are busy and your mind is sprinting. "All right," I said. That was it. One word. No fight, no lecture, no pleading. I watched the relief spread across her face like warm light. I made one call she never expected. He answered on the second ring. "This is Daniel Price," I said. My voice was calm. I even smiled a little, because I could already hear my wife's heels clicking down the hallway. There was a pause. "Daniel," he said, like he knew my name from a folder. "Everything okay?" Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "It will be," I told him. "I need you to come over. Now, 10 minutes. Bring your appetite." "What is this about?" "About your invitation," I said, and my wife's yes. Silence stretched. I pictured him in some glass office, tie loosened, cufflinks catching the light, thinking fast. "You're making a mistake," he said. "No," I said. "I'm making a schedule." I hung up before he could find another threat that sounded like advice. She was already at the door. "Don't wait up," she said, like it was cute. "I won't," I said. The front door shut. The lock clicked. The house went quiet in that way it does when the truth is the only thing left in the room. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened it and let him in. He didn't look like a man who expected to be invited into another man's living room. He looked like a man who expected his world to stay divided into rooms he controlled. He glanced at my hands. No weapon. No shaking. Just a guy in a faded t-shirt and jeans, standing in a clean house that used to feel like a home. "Mr. Price," he said, "this is inappropriate." "That's a funny word from you," I said. He stepped inside anyway. Pride makes people walk into traps. I poured him a glass of water. Not bourbon, not poison. Water. Because I wanted him sober when he started to understand. We didn't sit. I stayed by the kitchen island. He hovered near the couch like it might protect him. "You're her boss," I said. "I'm her supervisor," he corrected. "Same animal," I said. "Different collar." He exhaled like I was wasting his time. "Daniel, listen." "Tonight," I said, "you were going to take my wife out. You were going to buy her something expensive and tell her she's special. You were going to make her laugh at the same jokes you've told every woman you think you can own. And then you were going to do what you do." His jaw tightened. "You don't know anything about my personal—" "I know you texted her at 4:17, I said, because she laughed out loud and said, 'He's so bad,' like she was in a movie. I know she changed her lipstick color. I know she didn't eat dinner. I know she's wearing the black dress that makes her feel like she can rewrite the rules." He stared at me. His eyes were colder now, evaluating. "Are you threatening me?" "No," I said. "I'm inviting you." "To what?" "To be honest for the first time in your life," I said. "It's going to be uncomfortable. You'll survive." He looked toward the hallway like he might leave. Then he looked at the framed wedding photo on the wall. My wife and me on a sunny day, smiles wide, hands linked, both of us still believing. "That was a long time ago," he said, and I realized he wasn't talking about the photo. He was talking about loyalty, like it was a phase people outgrow. The door opened behind us. My wife walked in, cheeks pink from cold air, eyes bright like she'd already been drinking attention. She saw him. Her face went completely white. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. The three of us stood in my kitchen like a bad play where the actors forgot their lines. My wife's hand tightened around her purse strap. "What is he doing here?" she asked, but her voice came out thin, like paper. He lifted his chin. "Your husband called," he said. He didn't say it like an apology. He said it like a complaint. She looked at me and something flickered in her eyes. Anger first, then a flash of fear she tried to drown fast. "You did this?" she said. I nodded. "I did." Her mouth opened, closed. Then she did the thing she always did when she couldn't control the room. She made it smaller. "This is embarrassing," she said, as if embarrassment was the real crime. "You can't just call my boss." "Supervisor," he corrected again, because he was that kind of man. She ignored him. "Daniel, go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow." I laughed once. It surprised me how easy it came. "Tomorrow," I said. "You love that word. Tomorrow is where you put everything you don't want to face." Her nostrils flared. "You're acting crazy." "I'm acting awake," I said. He cleared his throat. "I should go," he said. "No," I said, and I didn't raise my voice. That was the trick. Calm is louder than yelling if you use it right. "You came. You can spare 5 minutes." My wife looked between us. Her fingers trembled just a little. She smoothed her hair like she could smooth the situation. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, and I almost admired the nerve. He invited the whole team out. It's a work thing. "Sure," I said, "and the black dress is your uniform." Her eyes sharpened. "Don't do this." "Don't do what? Tell the truth?" I asked. "I've been living with your lies so long, I'm starting to feel allergic." He took a step toward the door again. I didn't block him. I didn't have to. He wanted to leave, but leaving meant admitting there was something to leave from. "What do you want?" my wife snapped. There it was. Not "what did I do?" Not "why are you hurt?" Just the practical question. "What's the cost?" I leaned on the island and said, "I want you to understand that you don't get to humiliate me and then file it under marriage problems. You don't get to use me like furniture." She scoffed. "Humiliate you? You're doing that to yourself." The words hit, but they didn't cut the way they used to. I felt something inside me harden, like wet cement finally setting. "You know what I noticed?" I said. "Not tonight, not the dress, not the invitation, the tiny thing?" She rolled her eyes. "Here we go?" "When you lied," I said, "you didn't look up at first. You always touch your necklace, twice, like a signal to yourself that you're safe." Her hand flew to her throat before she could stop it. That was the detail, the habit, the routine, the proof that this wasn't new. You don't develop a tell the first time you cheat, you earn it. His gaze snapped to her hand. He didn't like being reminded he was a repeatable mistake. She swallowed. "You've been watching me." "Yeah," I said. "I have?" He finally moved, quick now. "Daniel, this is between you and your wife." "Is it?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just walked out, shoulders stiff, and I let him. I let him carry my calm with him like a bad smell. My wife stood there, shaking now, but she tried to turn it into rage. "You're pathetic," she said, calling him, like a kid tattling. I stepped closer. Not touching, just closer enough that she could smell the soap on my hands and remember I was real. "Go," I said. "What?" "Go on your date," I said, "since it matters so much. But don't lie to me about where you are. Don't insult me twice." Her lips parted. She stared, confused. I could see the calculation starting again. "You don't care," she said, testing. "I care," I said. "That's why I'm changing the rules." She turned and walked back out, fast, like she could outrun the moment. The door slammed. I stood in the quiet kitchen and looked at the wedding photo again. Then I did something else she never expected. I started making a list. I didn't break into phones. I didn't hire hackers. I didn't do anything that would end with handcuffs or a sad story on the evening news. I did what I was good at. I paid attention. My job was estimating for commercial facilities, HVAC, refrigeration, the kind of work nobody notices until the building is sweating. You learn to read patterns. Who leaves early? Who takes the long lunch? Who's lying about a quick fix? People are systems. Systems have leaks. My wife worked in a marketing firm downtown, all glass and polished concrete, with a parking garage that smelled like exhaust and money. Her supervisor, his name was Grant Hale, had an assigned space near the elevator with his name on a plaque, because some men need their ego engraved. I started showing up on nights when I had late calls. I parked a level down, engine off, and watched. The first time I saw them together, it wasn't even romantic. It was practical. She walked to his car without looking around. He popped the passenger door like he'd done it 100 times. She slid in, and he didn't kiss her. He didn't have to. The intimacy was in the routine. They drove out, and I followed at a distance that would make a cop yawn. I wasn't chasing, I was learning. They went to a bar I'd driven past 1,000 times. Warm light, dark booths, the kind of place where people pretend their sins are private because the music is loud. I didn't go inside. I sat across the street with a coffee and watched the entrance. A security guard stepped out to smoke. He leaned against the wall, bored. That was my neutral witness. Not because he knew me, but because he existed in the same reality as everyone else. Cameras, logs, habit. When they came out, my wife's laugh floated into the night like she was weightless. Grant held the door for her. He touched the small of her back. Ownership. They kissed in the shadow of the awning. I wrote the time down. Not because I needed evidence. Evidence is for courtrooms and movies. I needed leverage. And leverage comes from knowing how a person balances their life on a lie. In the garage, the lights buzzed overhead. Concrete columns made blind spots. Footsteps echoed. I saw them near his car again. She stood close, arms crossed, talking fast, angry. He reached out, grabbed her wrist. Not hard, not enough to leave marks, just enough to remind her of the hierarchy. Something in me cooled further. I stepped behind a column, close enough to hear. "You said you'd fix it," she hissed. "I'm fixing it," he said, "but you don't get to panic and make me look weak." "You promised," she said. He leaned in, voice low. "I'm the one with the power here." She didn't argue. She just looked down. That was the moment I understood something important. This wasn't just about cheating. This was about my wife wanting to be chosen by power, even if it meant being used by it. They moved toward the elevator. I moved too, without thinking. My foot scraped grit. The sound was tiny, but in a garage, tiny sounds are gunshots. Grant stopped, turned his head. For 2 seconds, his eyes swept the shadows. My heart beat once, hard. I kept still, breath held. My wife whispered, "What?" "Nothing," he said, but his voice had a crack of nerves. He walked again. They got in the elevator. I exhaled slow. Physical proximity. No violence. A near miss. And the first time I felt the thrill of the hunt. The next morning, I called a guy named Cal. Cal ran maintenance for the building where my wife worked. He wasn't my friend in the way you invite someone to a barbecue. He was my friend in the way you need someone to get a job done at 2 a.m. without asking questions. We'd crossed paths on service calls. He liked that I showed up when I said I would and didn't talk down to him. I liked that he saw everything and said very little. He answered with a grunt. "Price." "Cal," I said, "I need a favor." Silence. Then, "That depends." "On what?" "On whether it's stupid," he said. "It's not stupid," I said. "It's personal." That got his attention. "Talk." I told him just enough. Not the whole story, not the humiliation. Men like Cal respect precision. "I need to know when Grant Hale uses the garage," I said, "and I need to know if he's ever been careless." Cal chuckled once, humorless. "Careless is his hobby. Can you help?" Cal waited. I could hear him breathing. Then he said, "Meet me after shift. Diner on 7th. The diner smelled like grease and old coffee. Cal sat with his back to the wall, hands wrapped around a mug like it was the only warm thing in his life. "You're sure?" he asked. "I'm sure of what I saw," I said. "I'm not sure of what I'm going to do." Cal nodded like that was the most honest answer in the world. He slid a folded paper across the table. It wasn't a secret file. It wasn't a hacked email. It was a schedule, public, posted in a maintenance closet. Which executives used, which reserved spaces, which nights the cameras went into maintenance mode because corporate didn't like paying for upgrades. "Don't do anything dumb," Cal said. "I'm not trying to be dumb," I said. "I'm trying to be done." Cal's jaw flexed. He looked out the window like the street held a memory. "You know why I hate that guy?" he asked. "Because he's him?" I said. Cal stared at me. "Because my sister used to work there. 10 years ago. Different company name, same floor, same glass. She went to HR about him. They called it a misunderstanding. She quit. He got promoted." That landed in my stomach like a rock. "Why tell me?" I asked. "Because you're not the first man he's turned into a joke," Cal said. "And I'm tired." There it was. The unexpected ally connected to the lover's past mistake. Not a superhero. Just a tired guy with a sister and a memory. Leverage isn't always a document. Sometimes it's a person who remembers. Cal leaned forward. "He's got a board dinner next Friday," he said. "Big donors, investors, all suits. He'll be shiny. Your wife will be there." "How do you know?" "I fix their air," Cal said. "They talk like nobody can hear." I nodded slowly. "I'm not going to break the law," I said. Cal's mouth twitched. "You don't have to," he said. "People break themselves when the lights come on." I spent the next week collecting ordinary things. Receipts, times, places, patterns. I learned my wife's routines like they were my own. Which gas station she used when she wanted to avoid being seen, which coffee shop she visited when she was nervous, which late-night pharmacy she stopped at for mints. I didn't confront her, not yet. At home, I played the quiet husband, the furniture, the guy who didn't get it. She came in late, smelling like hotel soap and victory. She talked about deadlines and team dinners. She looked past me like I was a coat rack, and I watched her touch her necklace twice before every lie. I set up a separate bank account. Not a secret one, a normal one. I rerouted my paycheck. I changed my direct deposit. I moved the money I'd earned into a place where it couldn't be spent on her version of freedom. I met with a mediator for a consultation. No court drama, no threats, just information. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't need her permission to protect myself. At the same time, I started preparing my other weapon. The truth, packaged in a way that powerful people can't ignore. Grant Hale wasn't just cheating with my wife. He was violating company policy. He was dating a subordinate. He was using company events to cover it. He was using an executive parking space as a motel entrance. And because companies are allergic to lawsuits, they hate patterns more than they hate affairs. Cal gave me one more piece, an old newspaper clipping from 10 years ago. Not about his sister, about the company quietly settling a harassment claim after an internal review. The names weren't in it, but the timing was, the department was, the floor, leverage. On Thursday night, my wife came home humming. She tossed her purse on the chair and said, "Tomorrow's a big night." "Yeah?" I said, keeping my voice flat. "Board dinner," she said. "Grant wants me there. It's important for my career." Grant wants me there. Not the board wants, not the firm needs. Grant wants. I nodded. "Wear the black dress," I said. She smiled, thinking I was making peace. "I will," she said. When she went to shower, I opened my laptop and drafted an email. Not to HR, not to the police, not to a lawyer, to an investor on the board whose name was on the firm's public website, because rich people love transparency until it's about them. The email was short, polite, boring. Subject: concern regarding executive conduct at Hale Creative Body. I have reason to believe your VP of Growth, Grant Hale, is engaged in an ongoing relationship with a direct report and is using company functions and company resources to facilitate it. I am prepared to provide timestamps, locations, and witness statements. I'm contacting you directly because I assume the board prefers proactive mitigation. I didn't attach anything. I didn't accuse my wife by name. I didn't threaten. I offered mitigation the way corporate people talk when they're about to pull a knife. I scheduled it to send at 6:30 p.m. Friday. Then I went to bed beside my wife and listened to her breathe like nothing was wrong. My wife left early, hair perfect, black dress hugging her like it knew secrets. She kissed my cheek, light, strategic, and said, "Don't wait up." "I won't," I said. At 6:30, my email went out. At 6:45, Cal texted me a single word: "Now." I drove downtown and parked 2 blocks from the hotel where the board dinner was happening. I walked in wearing a plain jacket, hands in pockets, face calm. I didn't rush. I didn't sneak. I just existed. Grant saw me first. His smile faltered, just for a second. Then it snapped back into place, tighter. My wife turned, and her eyes widened. She recovered fast, but not fast enough. The mask slipped. Panic showed. "What are you doing here?" she hissed as I approached. "I was invited," I said. "No, you weren't." I nodded toward the hostess stand. "Actually, I was," I said. "Ask the board." Grant's face went pale in a way he couldn't control. He stepped closer. "This is not the place," he said quietly. "It's exactly the place," I said. A woman in a navy dress approached us, tablet in hand, professional smile. "Mr. Price?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Right this way," she said. My wife looked like she might be sick. "Daniel," she whispered. I leaned in so only she could hear. "Touch your necklace," I murmured. "Go ahead. It won't help." She froze. Grant followed us, jaw clenched, trying to look like he was escorting me, like he had control. Control was his oxygen. We entered a private dining room, round tables, soft lighting, crystal glasses, the kind of room where decisions get made that ruin lives without anyone raising their voice. A man in a gray suit stood as we entered. He was older, silver hair, eyes sharp. He didn't look surprised to see me. He looked like he'd been expecting a problem. "Mr. Price," he said, extending a hand. I shook it. "Thank you for meeting me," I said. He glanced at Grant. "Grant," he said. No warmth. My wife hovered behind, suddenly small. "I received your email," the investor said. "I'm told you have concerns." "I do," I said. Grant cut in. "This is a personal dispute," he said. "It has nothing to do with the company." The investor's eyes didn't leave him. "Then it should be easy to clarify," he said. That was the authority figure, not a cop, not a judge, a man whose money bought silence and who hated spending it. I pulled out a small notebook, not photos, not recordings, notes, dates, times, places, witnesses. "I've documented repeated meetings between Grant Hale and my wife, a direct report," I said, voice even. They've used company events, the executive garage, and vendor dinners as cover. I'm not here to talk about my marriage. I'm here because this pattern has existed before. Grant's eyes flashed. That's defamatory. I nodded. You can call it whatever you want, I said. But the last time, the company paid to make it go away. The investor's expression tightened. What last time? He asked. Grant said nothing. My wife's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she realized she'd stepped into a story that started before her. I slid Cal's clipping across the table. Public, old, harmless, until it wasn't. The investor read it, then looked at Grant like he was seeing him for the first time. This is going to HR, the investor said. Grant's voice cracked. This is ridiculous. The investor leaned in. What's ridiculous, he said softly, is thinking the board enjoys surprises. My wife grabbed my arm. Her nails bit through fabric. Stop, she whispered. Please. Please. Not because she loved me, because she was losing. I looked at her. You wanted power, I said quietly. Here it is. Grant stepped toward me, anger boiling. You can't do this, he said. I held his gaze. I already did, I said. Outside the room, the laughter continued. The dinner continued. Life continued. But in that small space, the lights came on. Action scene number 2 didn't need fists. It needed a calm voice and the right audience. When we left, my wife stumbled like her heels had turned into weights. Grant walked fast, phone in hand, already calling someone to patch the hole. I followed at a distance, my hands still in my pockets. In the valet lane, Grant's car wasn't there. He snapped at the attendant. Where's my car? The attendant looked at a clipboard. Sir, it was towed, he said. You were parked in a reserved fire lane. Management called it in. Grant's head whipped around like he expected to see me holding the tow hook. I didn't smile. I didn't wink. I just watched. It wasn't vandalism. It wasn't illegal. It was policy, enforced at the exact right moment. My wife stared at me like she was finally seeing the stranger she'd married. At home, my wife exploded the second the door shut. What the hell is wrong with you? She shouted. I hung my jacket on the hook like I had all the time in the world. You should be careful, I said. Your voice carries. Neighbors like stories. I don't care about the neighbors, she yelled. You humiliated me. I turned. You humiliated you, I said. I just took the curtains down. She stared, breathing hard, eyes shiny with rage. You're trying to ruin my life, I shrugged. I'm trying to stop you from ruining mine. She laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. You think you're some mastermind? You're a guy who fixes air conditioners. I estimate, I corrected. I plan. I predict. It's basically what I do. She stepped close, face inches from mine. Grant is going to destroy you, she hissed. That was the part that surprised me, not fear for herself, not regret. Loyalty. To him? I smiled a little. Grant can't even keep his car from getting towed, I said. I'm not worried. Her hand twitched like she might slap me. She didn't. She didn't want marks. Appearances mattered. You don't understand, she said, voice dropping. This wasn't just a fling. I know, I said. It was a transaction. She froze. Promotion, I said. Money, influence. You were using him. Her eyes narrowed. He told you that? I shook my head. I listened, I said. In the garage, when he grabbed your wrist and told you he had the power. For the first time, real fear flashed again. You followed me? Yeah, I said. I learned. She backed up a step like the floor had shifted. You're sick. No, I said. I'm adaptive. She looked around the house like it might shelter her. Then she did something I didn't expect. She smiled. It was small, like the smile from the sink, but colder now. You think you're ahead, she said, but you don't know everything. I waited. She walked to the kitchen drawer, opened it, and pulled out a folder. See this? She said, waving it. Grant got me on the lease for a new condo. He's paying. You're blackmailing me with your own affair? I asked. She snapped the folder shut. I'm telling you that I have options. You don't. That was the moment something didn't go as expected. I expected guilt. I expected bargaining. I didn't expect her to double down and try to recruit me into my own replacement. I stepped closer. You have options, I said. So do I. She scoffed. Like what? You can't win against him. He's connected. I nodded slowly. You think connected means untouchable, I said. It just means more people are going to watch him fall. Her face tightened. You're bluffing. I walked past her to the living room. On the coffee table sat a printed envelope, my handwriting on it. She stared. "What's that?" "Open it," I said. She did, fingers shaking, and pulled out a single sheet, a notice of separation, drafted by a mediator, clean and plain. Not a threat, a fact. Along with it, proof of my separate account, the new direct deposit confirmation, the list of household bills I would continue paying because I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to be finished. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. "You planned this," she whispered. "I started months ago," I said. That was the twist, slipping into place. Not a sudden genius move, a long suspicion finally becoming a plan. Her eyes widened. "How long?" I looked at her necklace. "Long enough to stop believing you," I said. She sat down hard on the couch like her legs quit, and for the first time she realized she didn't know who I was anymore. Grant didn't take the board dinner like a man who'd been caught. He took it like a man who'd been challenged. The next week, he started circling. He showed up at my job site, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled like he was one of the guys. He asked for me by name. The foreman pointed him toward the roof access. When I saw him climbing the stairs, something in my chest tightened. Not fear, exactly. Awareness. He stepped onto the roof, wind whipping his hair. The city spread out behind him, gray and indifferent. "Daniel," he said like we were pals, "we need to talk." "We already did," I said. He smiled. "You made a mess." "You had a mess," I said. "I just brought it to the board." He took a step closer. "Your wife is distraught," he said. I laughed. "She's strategic," I said. "Don't confuse that with distress." His smile faded. "You don't understand what you're messing with." "I understand plenty," I said. "Like the fact you came to my work instead of calling. That means you're scared." His eyes flashed. "I'm not scared." I nodded. "Sure," I said. "That's why you're up here in the wind, trying to intimidate a guy in a hard hat." He lunged forward, fast, grabbing the front of my jacket. Not punching, just gripping. "Listen," he said, voice low. "You back off. You send an email to that investor, you tell him you exaggerated. You keep your mouth shut." I looked at his hand on my jacket and then back at his face. "You're touching me," I said calmly. He blinked. "So?" "So, if anyone walks out that door," I said, "they're going to see you grabbing me, and you're already under a microscope." His grip loosened, just a fraction. I leaned in. "You can't threaten me into silence," I said. "You can only make me more careful." His jaw worked. He let go and stepped back. He was angry, but anger isn't a plan. It's a leak. "You think you're clean," he said. "You're not." I tilted my head. "Is that a confession?" I asked. He swore under his breath and walked toward the stairs. Then he stopped and glanced back. "Meet me tonight," he said. "Warehouse District, 11. Come alone." I almost smiled. "You're really leaning into the movie villain thing," I said. His eyes narrowed. "If you don't come," he said, "your wife will." He left. I didn't plan on going. Not because I was afraid, because isolated night meetings are where stupid men become headlines. But at 10:15, my wife texted me. "We need to talk. I'm going." I stared at the screen, feeling that old familiar tug. Responsibility, love, whatever was left. Then I thought about her loyalty to him, her smile, the folder. I thought about Cal's sister. I grabbed my keys. The warehouse district sat by the river, old brick buildings and empty lots. Streetlights flickered like they couldn't commit. Rain made the pavement slick. I parked a block away and walked, hood up, hands empty. A security truck idled near a loading bay. A man sat inside, looking at his phone. Witness, silent, powerless, real. Grant stood under the awning of a shuttered warehouse, cigarette burning. My wife stood beside him, arms crossed, face stiff. They looked like a couple posing for a photo nobody wanted. "You came," Grant said. "I came to see how stupid you were willing to get," I said. My wife snapped, "Stop talking like this is a game." I looked at her. "For you," I said, "it was." Grant flicked ash. "You think you can destroy me," he said. "You can't. You're nobody." I nodded. "That's the best part," I said. "Nobody's hard to predict." He stepped forward, voice rising. "You want money? Is that it? I don't want your money," I said. "I want you to stop." He laughed. "Stop? You can't make me stop." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a plain envelope. Not a weapon. Paper. Grant's eyes narrowed. "What's that?" "A resignation letter," I said. Yours, drafted, ready. You can sign it tonight quietly and walk away. My wife's head snapped toward me. What? Grant barked a laugh. You're insane. I held the envelope out. You're already done, I said. HR has the board's directive. They're conducting an investigation Monday. You can resign and keep your reputation mostly intact, or you can fight and watch the story grow. His face twitched. You're bluffing. I nodded toward the security truck. That guy, I said. He's an off-duty contractor for the building. Cal's people. He saw you pull into the loading bay last month with my wife in your passenger seat. He logged it. You think nobody logs things because you think you're the only one paying attention. My wife's eyes widened. Cal? She whispered. Grant's cigarette shook slightly. He masked it by taking a long drag. You can't do this, he said again, but weaker. I leaned closer. The rain hissed on metal. I'm not doing it, I said. You did. I'm just choosing the timing. My wife stepped forward, voice desperate. Daniel, please. I cut her off with a look. She stopped. That was new. Grant stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Then his eyes went to my face, searching for a crack. He didn't find one. I'll ruin you, he said, last gasp. I smiled. You can try, I said. But I already moved my money. I already filed separation, and I already told the board you might try retaliation. His face went pale. That was the jaw-dropping part for him. Realizing every move he could make had been predicted and labeled. He stepped back, rain dripping off his hair. You're not who she said you were, he muttered. No, I said. I'm who you never bothered to look at. My wife started crying quietly, mascara bleeding in thin lines. She wiped at it, furious at her own weakness. Grant looked at her, then at me, then at the empty street, like he was seeing his world shrink. I held the envelope out one last time. Sign, I said. He didn't sign. Not there, not under that awning. But he did something else. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and with shaking fingers, he dialed. Get me my attorney, he said. I laughed softly. Now you want a lawyer? I said. It's a little late for your first smart decision. At 9:02 p.m., my wife came downstairs in sweatpants, face bare, eyes hollow. They're suspending him, she said. Her voice was small now. Grant told me. I didn't look up from the papers on the table. That's what happens, I said, when you turn a workplace into your dating pool. She flinched. He said you're obsessed, she whispered. I finally looked at her. He would, I said, because admitting I'm sane means he's just careless. She swallowed. What happens to me? That was the most honest question she'd asked in months. I slid a document across the table. That, I said, you sign. You agree to a clean separation, no drama, no fighting over the car, no sudden I'm entitled speeches. Her hands shook as she read. You already wrote this, she said. I already lived this, I said. She stared at the page, then up at me. If I don't sign? I leaned back. Then we do it the loud way, I said. And your company finds out you were part of the pattern. Tears welled in her eyes. You'd do that to me? I shrugged. You did it to us, I said. The power shifted in that room like a weight moving from one shelf to another. Not because I yelled, because the world finally matched what was true. She reached for a pen. Her fingers hovered. A knock hit the front door. Hard. 3 times. I didn't move. I just listened. Another knock. Then a voice through the wood, muffled by storm. Daniel, Grant called. Open up. My wife's head snapped toward the door. What is he doing here? She breathed. I stood slowly. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I walked to the door like it was expected. When I opened it, Grant stood on my porch, soaked, eyes wild. Behind him, headlights glowed in the rain. Someone waiting in a car. He smelled like wet wool and desperation. This ends, he said. I nodded. It does, I said. Come in. My wife rose from the couch, backing away. No, she whispered. Grant stepped inside anyway. He looked around my home like he was hunting for weapons or leverage or anything that would put him back on top. I'm not resigning, he said. You hear me? They can investigate. I'll fight. I'll drag you into it. I'll drag her into it. My wife flinched at the word drag. I closed the door and locked it. Not to trap him, to keep the storm out. The storm outside was louder, but the storm in my living room was sharper. You don't have to fight, I said. He laughed, broken. I have to, he said. You don't understand. If I go down, I lose everything. You already lost everything, I said. You just haven't accepted it yet. He stepped toward me, fists clenched. You think you're better than me? I tilted my head. No, I said. I think I'm more patient. He looked like he might swing. He didn't. The line between intimidation and assault is thin, and even he knew it. My wife whispered, Grant, stop. He turned on her like a dog hearing a whistle. You, he spat. You were supposed to be loyal. She recoiled. I was, she said, voice cracking. I did what you said. He stared at her, disgusted, like she was suddenly cheap. That was the moment she understood she'd never been special. She'd been convenient. I watched it happen, and something inside me went very still. Grant turned back to me. What do you want? He demanded. I walked to the table and picked up the folder of papers, printed copies of emails, the board contact, the mediator notice, the policy clause about supervisor relationships. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, just a net of ordinary facts. I want you to sign, I said, and I didn't mean my wife's separation papers. I meant his. He stared. I told you. I opened the folder and slid out the final page. On it was a letterhead from Hale Creative, a formal notice, signed by the investor in gray suit. Effective immediately, Grant Hale is placed on administrative leave pending investigation. He is prohibited from contacting subordinates or entering company property without authorization. Any retaliation will be met with immediate termination. Grant's eyes went wide. How? I didn't write that, I said. They did. He snatched the paper, reading like the words might change if he stared hard enough. His breathing went ragged. My wife covered her mouth. Daniel, I already sent everything, I said. Friday night was just the introduction. Grant's face contorted. You can't control this. I nodded. You're right, I said. I can't. That's what's beautiful about it. He looked like he might collapse. Then he did something desperate. He reached into his coat and pulled out his phone. I have messages, he said. From her. Proof she came after me. Proof she wanted it. My wife's eyes flashed. Don't, she said. Grant held the phone up like a weapon. You want to ruin me? I'll ruin her. I'll show them everything. I stepped closer, slow. Go ahead, I said. Show them you kept explicit messages from a subordinate on your personal phone. Show them you invited her out and used your position. Do you hear yourself? He hesitated, because deep down he knew the truth. Every weapon he had was also a confession. The storm outside slammed rain against the windows. The house creaked. I leaned in and said softly, You think humiliation breaks a man? I told him. It doesn't. It just teaches him what he's capable of. His eyes locked on mine, and for the first time, I saw fear without arrogance covering it. My wife started sobbing, quiet and ugly, like she couldn't keep her body from reacting anymore. Grant backed up a step. You're not going to hit me, he said, trying to find ground. No, I said. I'm not giving you that story. I pointed at the door. Leave, I said. And if you contact her again, if you step onto my property again, I'll call the police for trespass. Not for revenge, for paperwork. Understand the difference. He stared, lips trembling. Then he turned and stumbled out into the rain. The car with headlights peeled away behind him, tires hissing on wet pavement. The house went quiet, except for my wife's breathing. My wife stood in the living room, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold from the inside out. It's over, she whispered. I nodded. Yeah, I said. It is. She looked at the separation paper on the table, then at me. You hate me, she said. I thought about it. Hate takes energy. Hate is a relationship. I didn't want a relationship anymore. I don't hate you, I said. I see you. That made her flinch more than hate would have. She picked up the pen again. Her hand shook. She signed. When she finished, she set the pen down like it weighed 100 pounds. She opened her mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to bargain, maybe to tell me she still loved some version of me that didn't exist anymore. I didn't give her the chance. I took the signed papers, folded them once, and slid them into the folder. Then I walked to the front door and opened it. Cold wind rushed in. Rain misted my face. The porch light glowed on wet wood. Go, I said. She stared. Where? Anywhere that isn't here, I said. She hesitated, eyes searching mine for softness. She didn't find it. She walked past me into the storm, barefoot, shoulders hunched, hair already damp. She didn't look back. Maybe she couldn't. I watched her disappear into the dark, and I realized the house felt bigger, Not empty. Bigger. I closed the door. I locked it. On the table, Grant's resignation envelope still sat untouched, waiting like a prophecy. I picked it up, tore it in half, and dropped it into the trash. He'd resign on his own. He'd do it because the world had finally seen him. And me? I turned off the living room light and stood in the dark for a moment, listening to the storm like it was applause. Then I whispered the only honest thing left.